I got this phone call from the publisher and they told me they'd picked up this book. It was erotic. They used the phrase BDSM, which I'd never heard.
BDSM, everyone calls it now. BDSM always to me sounds like a driving school.
They used the phrase mommy porn. They told me it was going to sell 1 million copies, and my naturally sceptical mind immediately suggested that that was a ridiculous thing. Erotic fiction didn't sell.
50 Shades of Grey is not just a book, it's a global sensation. The best-selling adult novel of all time has had a major impact on the publishing world and in quite a few bedrooms.
I would like my other half to buy me a flogger, but I don't think that's going to happen.
We haven't seen anything like this since the Sex and the City rabbit vibrator craze.
The series traces the tale of domination as seen through the eyes of the innocent Anastasia Steele, who embarks on an unconventional relationship with Christian Grey, a mysterious, bondage-loving billionaire.
The real reason why people loved it was the romantic relationship between the characters.
He's handsome and wealthy, and we'd all like that in life.
He is a prince, he is a god, descended from heaven.
Can you imagine asking Christian Grey to put the bins out? No, nor can I.
If he wasn't a rich billionaire, then Anastasia's character would probably be calling the police on him.
International sales of the sizzling trilogy have reached over 100 million copies, surpassing The Da Vinci Code as well as the entire Harry Potter series.
E.L. James has been named one of the Time magazine's 100 most influential people in the world.
Wow. Up there with Mother Teresa.
Yep. E.L. James classifies her novels as romance. They are porn.
Whether you love it or hate it, 50 Shades is here to stay. The most successful book in history originated with the most modest of beginnings as a fan's online homage to the Twilight vampire series.
The book was based on a fan fiction based around Twilight.
It's like the Twilight Saga, but naughty.
Twilight is the watered-down PG version.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also dislike Twilight.
50 Shades started as an online phenomenon. What's interesting is that she was able to publish this without a publisher at first.
It started off as a fan fiction.
It's just like blogging or tweeting. It's how writers can get their writing out there to an audience without any boundaries.
You've got websites like Wattpad, and the writers, they rack up millions and millions of views.
You get fans of particular characters from TV series or films or book series, and they take those characters and write them into other worlds and do other things with them.
Just put it up online to kind of test the water and see, is there interest for this?
It was picked up by a very small Australian press, published as a print-on-demand title, and then from that it became the fastest selling book of all time.
The 50 Shades trilogy has crossed continents, class barriers and broken boundaries in the environment where pornography is read.
I would often be on public transport seeing so many women reading 50 Shades of Grey and not my book. That made me quite angry.
You see people on the trains reading it quite openly. It was poolside reading for people on holidays.
It was packaged in a way that appealed to a mass audience and allowed people to read it on the train or wherever they wanted quite freely.
Well, I saw people reading the paperback editions of 50 Shades of Grey on the New York subway, which I don't think you would have seen a generation ago.
They are housewife porn. If you haven't got the balls to go into a shop and buy porn or ask for porn over the counter, you buy 50 Shades of Grey.
What I don't like about 50 Shades is the sort of adult sniggering about it. And I also found it very uncomfortable on public transport, especially late at night when I saw young women reading it, and you saw the slightly salacious looks from men on the tube late at night who'd had a drink, maybe just sort of going, dirty book, she's reading a dirty book.
It became commonplace to see a woman reading it on the tube, but to see a man reading a porn magazine on the tube.
You wouldn't have that.
No.
No, porn, not acceptable. Stop it now, put it down.
A woman is excited by words. Sex is a dirty thing, which is not to be referred to.
Erotica is not the preserve of seedy old men in Max anymore. That was what was interesting about 50 Shades, was that it wasn't being bought by dirty old men. The vast majority of copies were sold to women.
You still wouldn't find it normal to see a woman going into a porn shop and picking up a hardcore porn movie.
Women are attracted to the book because we don't really watch porn like men do, so our form of eroticism or titillation is different.
It says something about women that we need a whole trilogy of novels to get ourselves off, whereas men just need a naughty picture. But that to us is still disgusting.
Men have absolutely no morals at all. All these ones who are supposed to live blameless lives, they're the ones that have all these secret longings for vice. They go off and buy dirty postcards and read pornographic magazines.
You can't get off to sleep.
In fact, I'm beginning to wonder why we even bother with men.
Well, since 50 Shades of Grey came out, we have collected some of the items that are in the book and made a display because there's just been so much interest in them. There's been such a giant surge of interest that we have devoted a whole series of workshops to explaining how to use the toys. Sales have gone up 626% since the publication of 50 Shades of Grey.
Sex toys have been huge since the publication of 50 Shades. I personally can't see the point in spending money on something that a shampoo bottle can't do just as easily.
Before the 50 Shades of Grey phenomenon, products like nipple clamps and jiggle balls were popular, but not especially so.
I do own a set of nipple clamps. That may be news to my mother.
When 50 Shades of Grey came along, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of women worldwide read about the exploits of Anna and Christian, and they decided they wanted to join in as well.
Had a lovely lady of about 85 come in the other day asking for her first vibrator, which we think is quite a good thing.
People turn to toys because they want to explore. If you think about when you're cooking in the kitchen, you'll have a variety of pans for a variety of different dishes, and why should it be any different in the bedroom? That's a analogy, isn't it?
I think that sex is very much like cooking. We basically used to have about 3 recipes. In the same way, people had sex in about 3 different kinds of ways. You know, either lying down, standing up, or in a car.
Can you feel it?
There wasn't that much exotica involved, but just like with food, people's taste buds have been opened up and people are going, oh, I quite fancy a lick of that. And oh, I wonder what that tastes like. There'll be people watching this thinking, oh, middle-aged woman just licked. But get over it.
The novels are classified as erotic fiction. Author E.L. James calls it adult romance, while the media have dubbed it mummy porn. Whatever you call it, there's no doubt that it's popular.
I just sit at my desk, if I had any downtime, just start reading through it. Obviously it's manager or any lads, so I just hide it away.
As a reader and a feminist, it didn't float my boat, but I did read it because, obviously, for research purposes.
It got the imagination flowing.
People are caught up with those characters and they want to see what happens to them.
Because they did centre on that relationship, you could call them romantic erotica. It was a real page turner.
I went into a charity shop and I bought my copy and it was 59p. I think that tells you everything you need to know about 50 Shades of Grey.
I contemplated going to the library. And there was a voice in my head telling me, oh, the librarian's going to judge me a little bit for taking that one out. And then I thought, wait, do I want to use a used copy of 50 Shades of Grey?
There's a deep shame to being seen with the book.
A Belgian professor thought it would be a good idea to go into a library and test the 10 most popular books in that library for traces of drugs, traces of diseases. All 10 books had traces of cocaine. 50 Shades of Grey actually had traces of a strain of herpes. So I didn't go and get one out of the library. No.
I would never read that book in public because that would be a tragedy. There's such a stigma around it. I had it hidden inside the Times newspaper. But I would never be seen with 50 Shades of Grey.
Then I'm going to spank you, not for punishment, but for your pleasure and mine.
That's something kinky. Yeah, it's really kinky.
I think it's a very unpleasant thing.
He pauses, gauging my wide-eyed reaction.
Graphic. I think it'll make a good read.
I didn't expect to read that in the middle of New York.
I would be more embarrassed to be seen reading it simply because of how bad the prose is.
Weak prose and bad plot lines are not okay.
It's just concerning, the language of it. You know, how many times did he hitch a breath? You know, every other page, his breath hitched. Well, mine didn't.
J.K. Rowling refuses to read it. It might be due to the fact that 50 Shades of Grey did outsell Harry Potter. It's the quickest selling paperback, which probably rubbed J.K. Rowling up the wrong way.
Good choice of words.
Just a little bit.
Good choice of words there.
Oh God.
It's just mass market fiction. It's what sells.
It had already sold 200,000 copies in Kindle before it even went to paper. I mean, that's extraordinary. Most books don't sell 200,000 copies in all forms.
Most books sell 100,000 copies of a book in its lifetime. That's a big deal. This book sold 600,000 copies in 1 week.
The fact that they were page turners was more important than being particularly well written. You know, they appealed to the audience.
I heard something about Travelodge, that 50 Shades of Grey was their most left behind book, and they collected over 7,000 copies of it, just left in hotel rooms.
This is still a book that you would leave behind on the bookshelf in the apartment that you rented for a week's holiday to have a bit of nookie with the husband you hate, and you'd leave it behind on the shelf because you don't want to be seen with it.
It's a love story, but it just happens to have something a bit different.
Everyone's just so interested in romantic relationships. They love reading about them, they compare them to their own.
Clearly what sets it apart is the sex.
I think that is the licitness, the permission that women like. After all, how else to explain that this is the most successful book practically ever?
The arrival of e-book technology allowed readers to download literature discreetly on their Kindles, launching a whole new world of sales.
It's the first major book to have come out of the Kindle revolution.
It came along at a really critical point in publishing.
Certainly technology was instrumental.
Romantic fiction readers are really voracious readers. They go through books super fast. When e-readers came around, romantic fiction readers were early adopters of those because it's a way to consume books really, really quickly and have them all piled on there for them ready to read whenever they wanted.
This was one of the first books that went from self-published on Kindle to mass market, print and Kindle. And at one point, the Kindle version was outselling the print version 4-1. One of the things about e-reading is that nobody can see what you're reading when you're reading it.
If people wanted to read it in private, they had that opportunity to do so.
It is the equivalent of the brown paper cover.
Plain brown wrapper, I call it. The Kindle is the plain brown wrapper.
"50 Shades of Grey" is a book that got everything right. Packaging, timing, controversy.
If you type provocative fiction into Google, you get 50 Shades of Grey and Mein Kampf, which is Hitler's autobiography.
Yeah.
2 top choices not to read in the park.
It saved the high street bookstores, but it proved that there was still a huge appetite for physical books.
They were really clever with that cover. It was really subtle and allowed it to be put on tables in bookshops everywhere and not necessarily in the erotic fiction or romantic fiction areas.
Everyone's been flaring up about 50 Shades since it's been released. Everyone's got an opinion on it.
It takes a lot to be writing this sort of information, and the way it's been portrayed is not as bad as people think it is, because most people think it's erotic, of which it's not. It's a romantic story.
I can't recall any other erotic fiction that has caused such a sensation.
And before you knew it, everybody in the country had read it, apart from me.
Gail James writing BDSM into the novels just gave it a twist.
It's a strange subject, BDSM. Violence is okay in a violent film. That seems to be perfectly okay. People can be heads blown off. And it's graphic violence, but that's fine. But you can't take a whip to somebody.
I'm not afraid, I'm nothing but your slave, and I'll touch every fantasy. You got me tied up.
All it is really is a repetition of 5 pages of stuff over and over, and then they had sex, and over, and then they had sex again.
It was interesting, but repetitive.
And then they had sex with a whip, and over, and then he pulled her panties down.
I don't think it was designed to be a revolutionary document.
And I don't think anybody's saying that this is a great piece of literature to rival To Kill a Mockingbird.
It's a terrible book. It's badly written, but it's a cracking page turner.
You cannot deny that it is a page turner. There's loads of things I don't believe in it. Anastasia can drive a car, but she's a virgin. Find me a car driving virgin.
Didn't really know what a penis was. I'd suggest by 20 whatever, you should know what a penis looks like.
And she has a socket to an orgasm on the first encounter.
Most virgins wouldn't embark on a BDSM relationship.
You have to learn how to have an orgasm. This is a woman who doesn't appear ever to have masturbated.
He takes her through her first sexual experiences in a grown-up manner, which no women get.
And she hasn't got a laptop. She's doing a degree without a laptop. I'm really sorry.
She still thinks Christian Grey's fantastic, even though she's treating her like
Anastasia talks about her insides contorting with potent, needy, liquid desire, which would say to me that she's about to wet herself.
I've used the ideas in 50 Shades of Grey for comedy purposes. In my stand-up, I've done a whole section about trying to write a dirty book, but I struggle with the sex bit. And I end up describing a woman dripping. She was dripping like a badly wrapped parcel of mints in the fridge. And at this point, the audience realised that, you know, my sex writing isn't very good.
The controversial novel proved a runaway success with a mostly female fan base and fostered the creation of the term mummy porn.
Mummy porn, I guess, is a phrase that's been born through 50 Shades of Grey.
The term mummy porn is actually in the Collins Dictionary now. It's an actual term.
Now, the phrase mummy porn actually makes me feel deeply sick to the root of my stomach.
It's for women that haven't had sex in quite a long time or quite bored of their husband. They've got a couple of kids. They have sex maybe once every 3 weeks and they do it without facing each other. This is kind of porn for them.
Anything with the phrase mummy in it actually like that.
My understanding of mummy porn was that it would be, in the same way as granny porn, people that wanted older women or people's mums for sexual gratification.
It's amazing how such a cute, fluffy little term means something quite dark underneath, really.
But maybe that's what all mothers are like underneath.
Maybe.
Not my mother, though.
No, not our mothers.
Not
God,
our mothers.
no, they're baking.
No.
They're at home baking right now.
Yeah.
E.L. James is the undisputed queen of erotica. The 50 Shades author, whose real name is Erica Leonard, has had a rapid rise to fame and fortune. What is unprecedented about her meteoric takeover of the publishing arena is the sheer magnitude of her triumph.
She's really a nice lady. She's amazing, basically. I mean, to us, she's amazing. Meet her, the person that put it into words. It's amazing.
And we can't wait for her to write some
Another
more,
one,
really.
yeah.
E.L. James' legacy is probably a fortune of about $250 million.
To judge from her website and her fan base and the number of imitators, I would say she's hugely respected.
She's on the Forbes most influential people list, which is really impressive.
E.L. James is a mysterious creature.
She's very mysterious.
A bit like Christian Grey.
She's very like Christian Grey.
And I could bump into her outside and I wouldn't know E.L. James unless she was wearing a badge that said E.L. James.
She does look like the sort of woman you'd expect her to look like. Obviously she's polished things up a bit now that she's earned a few million, but 3 or 4 stone overweight, bit chubby, watches a lot of daytime TV, probably doesn't get out much, probably cooks her own frozen meals straight from the freezer.
She's a married mother of 2.
She was working in TV before, production roles and TV executive, long before she started writing. She came to writing quite late.
I don't think E.L. James has done anything for women. Ultimately, this still was a book that people were ashamed to own.
I don't think you see E.L. James quoted in the same articles with, Salman Rushdie.
There's always a bit of you when you're reading these things, you think, oh, this will be some vicar just having a bit of a laugh. But God, all he knows is stuff.
She actually describes the books as a midlife crisis.
As a midlife crisis, some people just get their ear pierced.
She sells books that make her millions.
Yeah.
Within 18 months, 50 Shades evolved from blog to fan fiction to limited print to commercial novel, followed by ebook. By August 2012, Amazon announced that sales of virtual books had overtaken print sales for the first time, making the series the literary phenomenon of the decade.
Every 10 years or so, there is a book that becomes a phenomenon, and this is this generation's game changer.
Dirty books will always work. There will always be a chunk that people will turn to get themselves a little bit hot under the collar. Actually, you don't get hot under the collar, you get moist in the pant area.
But at the core of it, it's a romantic story. Boy meets girl. In fact, it's Beauty and the Beast with some very kinky sex in it.
And they have got that romantic relationship that just keeps you hooked.
That's what women really enjoy. They follow Anna and Christian's relationship together and see that through.
No one's going to read it if it's about real life, is it? Are they?
For the mums, it's a sort of escape from the mundaneness of their every waking moment.
The controversial novel and its sequels have introduced BDSM into the mainstream and sparked worldwide debate for its graphic sexual content.
Couples are coming in and saying that their relationships have been revitalized because they're exploring their desires together. And single women are saying that they feel more empowered than ever before after they read the books to find out what makes them feel good and to embrace it. Many times they kept these fantasies a secret from their partner because they were kinky or maybe even considered taboo. But how taboo can something be if they're talking about it on morning television or you see people reading it at the gym?
50 Shades of Grey actually caused a divorce between a couple.
A woman actually divorced her husband because he wasn't adventurous enough. A direct result from reading 50 Shades.
Yes. He wasn't willing to act out the fantasies that she wanted, which is interesting because you would think it might be the other way around.
It reminds me of those mums, Wareboden, 2 kids, private school, learning how to play the harp, don't have sex very much, read E.L. James.
London fire crews issued a warning about handcuffs and the safe use of them. A direct result from 50 Shades.
Always carry a spare key.
Now you think that was common sense, wouldn't you? What that fills me with is concern that there are a lot of Anastasias running around just handcuffing themselves, going, oh, I don't know what to do, I'm a silly little woman. But, you know, always have the key.
Even Argos brought out a DIY pole dancing kit. Personally, if I woke up on Christmas morning to find a DIY pole dancing kit, there's only one place that would get installed, and that would be right up his
In a sex-saturated world where every desire can be accessed with the click of a computer mouse, what is intriguing about E.L. James' series is not the soft porn content, but the emphasis on the heroine's virginity and monogamy.
You definitely need the virgin in there, the damaged hero and the submissive and dominant themes.
She says, I have never felt like this. Every time he touches me, there is this electrical sensation, this explosion.
The character of Anastasia is just about to finish university. She's got a whole life ahead of her. The second that she meets Christian, she turns into this bizarre little woman.
It bothers me that E.L. James plays on all the insecurities that women have, and she makes her very weak and meek.
I don't think that you can brand every submissive as low in self-esteem.
In Anna and Christian's relationship, Christian is the dominant partner.
He was submissive for 6 years to an older woman.
He used to date more or less a paedophile, and she thought that was loosely acceptable.
Constant repetition of her biting her bottom lip and trembling, which is apparently oh so sexy. Well, actually, if you bite your bottom lip and tremble and go like this, not that sexy.
Sadly, she isn't anything special.
She would probably keep cats if she could and smell vaguely of cat's wee.
In the opening scene, she trips over going into the office. She's a bit of a clumsy one.
Anastasia says, I his toothbrush. And I think for a moment, that would be like having him in my mouth.
So poetic.
She's just the most pathetic woman. And the fact her surname's Steele, if that's not ironic, I don't know what is.
The main thing that bothered me about it was the inner goddess thing. What is that?
I think it's nice that she refers to her inner goddess. I think all women should think of themselves in that way, sexually and in life.
The terms that she used to describe her vagina, she described it as my sex. And I just think if the writer had a world of metaphors and terms to use. You could have called it my zebra crossing. You could have called it my Elizabeth Taylor.
My Elizabeth Taylor.
It could have been anything.
Anything.
My sex.
very interesting, that these are very young people. The Christian and the girl, they're in their 20s. So what happens to some women who maybe have been in long-term relationships with the same guy, they get to go back in their fantasies to a stage where maybe they were more sexual. And then that creates a very, very interesting feedback loop, in the sense that they tap into their own sexuality and then they say, well, what can I do with it? Maybe I need to go buy more lingerie. Maybe I need to realize this fantasy that this book really provides.
Historically, our relationship with explicit novels has been cyclical. The 18th century was a time of glamour and excess, when affairs were forgiven and mistresses were on show. By the time Queen Victoria took to the throne in 1837, contemporary morals had shifted. The Queen was a young virgin, and the most celebrated women were no longer mistresses, but reformers and writers. The Victorians preferred to read about love, not sex. Up until the early 1950s, society could be described as a nation of prudes.
People talk sex, every paper talks about sex. It's all very common, very down market, and very horrible.
And so remained the status quo until 1960. When Penguin won the right to publish D.H. Lawrence's explicit novel, Lady Chatterley's Lover.
If you go back a century, you've got Lady Chatterley's Lover, which for that time was explicit and illicit.
Lady Chatterley's Lover, that was a really shocking book at the time.
It certainly created a lot of publicity around the court case in the early 60s.
We've got a long history of banning books because we're afraid of the sexual practices that they describe, possibly spreading into respectable society. Lady Chatterley's Lover was actually prosecuted in this country and banned because of the sexual violence in it. Mellors, the gamekeeper, is very angry with Lady Constance because she wants to be a feminist in bed.
Two books that people kind of always refer to when they're thinking about historical dirty books. They are The Story of O and The Marquis de Sade.
I think Enid Blyton, in her own way, was rocking it for a while, but it wasn't close enough to porn.
Lady Chatterley became a bestseller and opened the floodgates for freely available, mass-consumed erotica.
All the controversy around the court case generated enormous sales. I think it was the thing which made Penguin money for the first time, but pales into insignificance compared to the enormous interest that was generated by 50 Shades of Grey. There's never been anything else like it.
With roots in erotica and chick lit, 50 Shades arguably owes as much to Bridget Jones as Twilight, and follows a long tradition of novels that have played with the idea of what the contemporary romance novel can be.
50 Shades of Grey is Mills and Boon for the new era.
When 50 Shades came around, people thought, oh wow, you know, this is a really explicit book, but actually that's what Mills and Boon has been doing for a while. It was around the 1980s when a condom was first mentioned. That was a really big thing.
There are elements which are similar, which is, you know, the woman surrendering to the man. But I skip all that. You know, everyone's just looking for the next dirty bit, aren't they?
"50 Shades and its sequels have sparked endless debate about why the world of BDSM might appeal to the modern, liberated woman.
So I ask you a question, you to answer it
words, yes mistress or no mistress. Is that clear?
What E.L. James has done is to write a book that works to help people take this into the mainstream.
I think loads of women out there didn't realise that this whole dominant and submissive kind of culture existed.
There are plenty of sexual preferences outside of man on top.
I think they probably used to see women walking men down the street with a chain around their neck and just think, oh, that's nice, she's taking him for a walk. Isn't that sweet?
There's a lot of 50 Shades of Grey sexually that I really, really disapprove of. You know, I've lived with the same man for 30 years and I've never done anything he's wanted me to do, not even by accident.
We've been indoctrinated about what's right in sex and society. Women reading books about princesses from a really young age. And so our first reaction is, you can't do sex like that.
It became so popular so quickly. What did surprise me was that the subject matter became so accepted so quickly.
When I do my stand-up, I always say to the audience, I might get a little bit experimental with you. So I think at this point it's best if we decide on a safe word, something that you can shout out if you think I've gone too far. And they all get it. You see, 10 years ago, you could have said the safe word thing and half the audience wouldn't have got it because they wouldn't know what a safe word was.
Everybody deserves a fun and fulfilling sex life. It's as important to your well-being as your 5 a day or going to the gym. And if people want to play with some spanking or flogging or some tying up, then all the better.
It's become more acceptable now. It's okay, I might give that a try now.
It's almost a pack mentality amongst women now. Women as a group decided that it was okay to read it in public. And that's why it's become acceptable.
The very fact that we're talking about it democratises it further, because the spread of ideas is irresistible. And what happens is that people change their prejudices and change their biases, and they say to themselves, well, I won't look it unless I've had a little try.
I can't describe how it feels. It is an immense amount of pleasure and I really do enjoy it a lot.
Don't really fancy it, no?
Not for you. No.
The origin of the term BDSM is believed to derive from an acronym of bondage and discipline combined with sadomasochism.
Bondage, domination, and sadomasochism. I can't say it.
Bondage, sadomasochism?
It's bondage, domination or discipline, submission or sadomasochism.
Playing with what I've called the power exchange.
It's anybody that's looking for some kind of kink added into their sex life. People's view of what we do and what we actually do are two very, very different things.
There's people that are dominant submissive, there's people that are into bondage, there's people that are into seriously hurting each other.
There are people that do follow this as a lifestyle, literally.
I think actually after reading the book, I'd be open to it. But you know, you got to have those safe words.
For some women, it was just an eye-opener, like they didn't realise this existed. It's like if they walked out the world of John Lewis and suddenly realised there are other shops out there. Imagine.
Over the last 50 years, definitely, we've been surrounded by sexual violence. And even in 1963, there was a film. Christopher Lee was in it. The Body and the Whip.
The Whip
in
and the
1963, he was doing this and showing sexual violence. He was Christian Grey, but of 1963.
People want to read about something that's a bit taboo, and that's why BDSM has just got everyone talking about it.
People within the BDSM community feel that they've been misrepresented by the novels, that it doesn't actually show what a healthy BDSM relationship is.
I'd say that most of the scenes in the novel are fairly realistic.
It's very, very difficult for a lot of people to understand the difference between being smacked in bed and being smacked in the mouth in the kitchen.
It's a big misconception that BDSM is all about pain, and it generally isn't. People think it's all about pain or people being taken advantage of, and that's not really what it's about at all here.
What is the appeal of being tied up and spanked, or tying someone up and spanking them? It's a good question, isn't it?
It's the sense of power. I enjoy seeing somebody else enjoy their fetish.
It was traditionally a lot of MPs that liked to crawl around the floor on dog collars, being beaten.
Men appear to like to be dominated. As a professional dominatrix, I hardly ever see a woman.
There is an emotion which is very gratifying to the people who engage in this, because that's why they do it.
It makes you feel wanted.
The appeal of BDSM in the broadest sense is that people can heighten their senses and their sensitivity through, for example, deprivation.
The appeal of it is being able to enjoy a fetish without feeling judged for it.
Even if it's something simple like a blindfold, that heightens your sense of hearing and your sense of touch.
Playing around with the idea of power, even if you're only using paper handcuffs, which you agree you're not going to break, creates an eroticism.
It's that sub-dom need to be either mastered or reversed. I think we all love that role play.
I could not recommend it if it is yucky in your head. But a lot of sex involves power, it involves vigorous behaviour. I mean, we have such things as love bites, we have desperateness to get clothes off where people get a bit scratched, we have squeezing hard. All these things are not passive, they're borderline violent.
And as you move through being tied up or being flogged, spanked or tickled, I think it just heightens arousal and people, well, they get off on it.
It's also a rush of endorphins and adrenaline, which gives them a feel-good factor.
I'm not recommending violent sex as what we should be selling people. But if you consent to do certain things, then there is absolutely clear psychological evidence that you can have a more intense erotic experience if you tap into these energies.
I'm not that adventurous, but if I had a Christian Grey type that introduced me to it and did it in a loving, safe way, then possibly.
As long as you are both into it, that's absolutely fine. But it does confuse people, it does upset people, and I do understand why some people are just left going, I don't get it.
Prior to the rise of Anastasia Steele's inner goddess, BDSM was stigmatized and taboo. By bringing Christian Grey into our consciousness, E.L. James has made the joy of submission acceptable.
There's a big difference between having rough sex and what you might call a formal dom-sub relationship, where, for example, somebody might even go as far as to say, I want to wear your collar. Be collared by your dom is a goal for many submissive personality types. In extreme cases, they want to be owned.
I would like to draft a contract with my next partner saying you won't leave your socks on the floor.
I've had slaves under contract. I could set his daily regime of what to do, what to wear, what to eat, when he could sleep, when he couldn't.
I think that's why it horrifies a lot of people, because you just think, hold on, where is the line that we cross here? How does this become acceptable?
The slave takes it very seriously.
I happen to know a lady general practitioner who is owned by her person. You go in there and you'll have a perfect ordinary treatment in the surgery, but she goes home to be owned and obeys and wants to be nothing but his plaything. Now, you can say it's a regression, but I have to tell you she's a pretty high-powered intellectual lady, and she doesn't take prisoners in any other walk of life, and you would cross her at your peril. There are meetings of BDSM people up and down the country all the time in pubs and clubs. They're called munches. Don't know why, but I guess you munch something, and they are as tedious in one sense as the meetings of the Rotary Club. But let's contextualise. You've got Saudi Arabia described as the world's largest women's prison because they're not even allowed to drive a motor car. How much more do you think they're actually allowed to drive a vibrator?
Although derided by critics for appalling writing, it has not stopped millions of women across continents snapping up the books. The controversy surrounding the novel has elicited much feedback, both good and bad.
We will order what we call a review copy. That's how we got this. We ordered this and we said there's a lot of buzz, there's some interest, let's take a look at it and see if it fits within our collection. So that's what the sticky notes are. We found some areas in it that we think pretty much supported its description as erotica. We do not collect erotica at Gwinnett County Public Library. That's part of our materials management collection policy. So E.L. James' 3 books in the trilogy fit that description. So we have looked at that and are aware of the buzz and the fact that they're bestsellers. But at this point, they don't fit within our collection policy. So we don't have them here on the basis of the fact that they're erotica.
A lot of critics think the 3 books weren't very well written.
Literary critics are quite right to knock this trilogy. I love this grandiose term, trilogy.
Anytime somebody becomes largely successful, there's going to be a level of envy.
There is always envy in the literary world at somebody's success. Whether the book was good, not good, brilliant, whether the writer is nice, not nice, American, British, doesn't matter. If somebody's very successful, there's envy. It's typical.
Even J.K. Rowling gets a lot of stick because she's had such a massive success with Harry Potter, and people really can't bear the fact that she might sell a lot of her other books, her adult fiction. There is bitterness amongst writing because it's so hard to have a success. So there are a lot of furious people in the industry seething, absolutely seething, and I'm one of them.
Aside from their untraditional sex lives, the main characters in 50 Shades of Grey are close to romance novel archetypes.
The appeal of Christian Grey is everything women want, and then they want to dominate him.
You need the damaged hero, bit of a dark past.
He is the ideal man in lots of ways.
I think Christian Grey is an utter nutter.
It's like a scientific thing that you'll go for masculinity. You want someone who's powerful and strong.
He's got fingers to die for. He plays this woman as if she's a Stradivarius.
He's powerful and independent, and I think all women look for that in a man.
The idea of being taken out for dinner and your male partner choosing your food for you. No. Can you imagine going to a restaurant and your partner says the lady will have the Dover sole and a side salad? No, she won't. I think you'll find the lady will have the steak and chips, you
I think it's absolutely essential that Christian Grey is a billionaire control freak.
The fact he's got loads of cash but doesn't seem to actually put in a full day's work at any juncture makes me really question his values. Can you imagine Christian Grey being able to fix a leaking tap? Can you imagine Christian Grey clearing up child's vomit? No, nor can I.
I personally don't find him attractive in any way.
The fact his eyes are grey makes me suspicious as to the inner workings of his soul.
He says at one point, it's one of my favourite lines, because I'm 50 shades of Anastasia. How can you be attracted to a man who says that?
He's interested in non-emotional sex, and that was the kind of condition right from the beginning.
The strangest thing is he wants to control, but deep down what he wants is someone to tell him it's going to be all right. He's scared of the love.
He always wears a white linen shirt. I mean, who wants to go out with a guy that's continually wearing the same outfit? Not me.
He's not going to pick up his socks. The shoes are going to be in the middle of the floor. You know, that's sexy at first, but let's be honest, in the end, we don't want it.
It's not what women want.
It's not what we want.
I think it's interesting now, what do young women want? I don't think most of them want to be led to the Red Room of Pain, but I think that there are a lot of young women now who actually want a man who can drive a car and navigate his way from home to the airport and be capable and make an omelette. I very much like Christian's Red Room of Pain, in so much that you know that it's a classy joint.
He's got a purpose-built, state-of-the-art penthouse dungeon.
I think I'd prefer to have sex in a normal bedroom.
He's gone to the extent of building a Red Room of Pain that has clearly been used. There's nothing exciting about that, am I wrong?
No,
it's used.
you're right.
That's just my sexual history right there. Do you want to have a go?
The actual reality of most S&M is that, you know, nobody's got the funds for the beautifully upholstered, leather, nicely veneered, proper wood job. And most people are going to be doing a DIY version from Argos.
You just need a room, a bed, a yard of rope divided into two, and an imagination.
Would I rather have sex in a normal dungeon?
As opposed to one of those weird ones.
The 50 Shades character Anastasia Steele is asked to give up her independence and become Christian Grey's submissive.
Christian is the dominating one the whole way through.
He gives Anastasia a legal binding contract that outlines the sadomasochistic rules of their relationship and what she must and mustn't do.
I had to sign a contract for Playboy, but it's not nearly as demanding as Christian Grey's.
He asked her to go see a gynecologist, which I thought was a bit strange.
Christian Grey's requirements are absolutely outrageous and ridiculous.
He loses control in the opening negotiations with Anastasia because he says, I'm not going to sleep with you until you've signed a document saying you completely consent to all this. Then he discovers she's a virgin, and then he gives in. And he doesn't like being out of control, but he's darn well feeling stuff, believe you me.
She wants him to love her. Anastasia has no real idea of the world she's going into, so to sign a contract with something you don't know about...
well, stupid on her behalf, really.
Well, yeah.
She's got to wear the clothes that he picks for her. Well, that wouldn't work either. That really wouldn't work.
The idea that someone else would dress you is a nonsense.
Can you imagine what we'd be going around looking like if our men dressed us? You know, there'd be a whole brigade of women trussed up in red and black with a lot of lace, looking ridiculous.
Here's what you look like when you're walking away.
One of the terms in the contract is the submissive must be available at the allotted times demanded by the Dom.
Some of the other rules are no eye contact. Wow, what's all that about?
It's all gone a bit Muslim militia on the no eye contact thing, isn't it? It's all a bit burqa bashing for me. I don't agree with the burqa at the best of times, but I think telling women not to look at men, telling women how they're going to dress, I don't agree with it.
The wax and shaving stipulations, I'm actually in full support of, as long as they maintain their waxing.
We're going to stick up for that one, because that could be a two-way thing. Yeah, that should be brought in anyway to normal relationships.
I grew up in the 70s where, you know, women were allowed to have stragglers. Pubic hair was the kind of thing that kept me warm during the miners' strike.
She's not allowed to snack between meals.
That's
not all right.
That's not going to work
If
for you.
I want a tracker bar, I'm going to have a tracker bar. If you don't want to have sex with me afterwards, that's fine. I've got my snack.
What there isn't in this legally binding contract are any of the rules that normal mortals have to abide by, which are basically you will take the bins out every other week. I will roll your balls. I will roll your balls up into a sock. I meant I will roll your socks up into a ball if you occasionally polish my shoes for me. It's all give and take. But I will roll his balls up.
Christian Grey presented me with a non-disclosure agreement. I'd take his non-disclosure agreement and I'd shove it up his.
There's something appealing about it. I can understand where he's going with that. I mean, we live in a culture where everyone talks and texts and actually not much is private.
All relationships are contracts. It's conditional. Treat me that badly, I'm off. Break all the marriage vows, I'll divorce.
He tries to get her to exercise for an hour, 4 times a week. To give her credit, she negotiates her way down to 3.
She wants to be wanted for who she is and not for the way he wants her. So she wants him on her terms. That's what every woman wants to do.
By the end of the 3rd novel, she gets what she wants.
We've got to submit, to dominate.
She wants a relationship, a normal relationship. She wants marriage, she wants kids. By book 3, she gets it. So
She wore him down.
I think that makes me like her a little bit.
Do you know what's really shocked me? Not the BDSM scenes in 50 Shades, the fact that they get married and have 2 children. That is genuinely shocking.
With the release of 50 Shades, E.L. James made erotica socially acceptable and tapped into a long-established base of genre fans eager for a text that spoke to their generation.
I think that it's good that people are not as po-faced about sexuality as they used to be, and we are a much more accepting community.
It's sad though that sex which isn't BDSM has been labelled vanilla sex.
Vanilla sex? Well, I can only guess what vanilla sex is.
Vanilla sex basically is just sex without any kink in it.
Plain sex, boring sex.
Vanilla ice cream is always the plain ice creams.
What is it on a scale of? Is it what, from vanilla to Neapolitan, or what do people mean? A missionary position, perhaps?
I'm yours. Do with me what you will.
Yeah, well, you might have waited till I got my shirt off.
Oh, her lovely hair just, so powerful, so overwhelming.
The sort of personalities who are attracted to BDSM find vanilla sex or ordinary sexual experience doesn't work for them terribly well, or is actually a bit frightening.
Is it vanilla sex? Not really. Is sex just about a connection with somebody else? It still has that same excitement that that other person might get out of BDSM.
And if you're not allowed eye contact in it, which Christian Grey stipulates in his contract, how do you connect emotionally with that other person?
But the point is, BDSM has been around for years.
There's always been a demand for bondage.
It's always been there.
Tying up, hitting, flogging, spanking, all that kind of play.
It's been going on for years and years and years.
Going back way into history, the Romans were great flagellants. They, for example, used to whip people with stinging nettles. That is called urticaria.
It's been around since there were two people. There will always be a more dominating person and somebody who is willing to sit back a bit more shy and let them take the lead.
There was in a Paris bordello a particularly constructed love chair for the rather overweight Prince of Wales, the future King Edward VII. Part of the pleasure was multiple partners and the rod and the cane and the lash. There's a link with the British Navy, which was obsessed with flagellation. Quite frequently, for minor offences against King's regulations, you could be beaten, and it was an absolutely regular occurrence on British ships that there was this outpouring of lashing and beating and flagellation. It's very much part of English social history. I was first caned when I was 6, and I can remember that it was by Mrs. W.J. Trevitt, who wore a green suit and had a white bun, and to the day I die I will hate her.
Not only is 50 Shades the best-selling novel of all time, it is also responsible for boosting sales of copycat erotic literature.
The new 50 Shades film trailer is released. Erotica is once again a hot topic, and one woman who's enjoyed her own time at the top of the bestsellers list for so-called mummy porn is Jo Ellen Malpass. Hello.
Hello. These have been very, very successful, hugely popular.
Yeah.
Is it the sort of, when you started writing initially, were these the sort of books that you wanted to write?
After 50 Shades exploded, these women were hungry for these passionate love stories, and it certainly made me think, well, actually, maybe I can put it out there.
So you get to the stage where you write this sort of a book, and you write the perfect man or the perfect affair. No, he's flawed, everybody is. But nevertheless, as you say, it started off being that fabulous, sweep you off your feet love story. And so you create this incredibly erotic world, a world in which, you can unhook all of your fantasies. And of course, writing it down on paper is one thing. Living it out for real is something else.
Isn't it? It's fiction, and fiction and reality, they're two very different things. But there's no denying that women love to absorb themselves in the fictional world.
I see all the sex films, Hot lust and sweaty thighs, nuns in rubber.
No, I mean, I thought that would be me. Anything.
Well, ordinary sex gets so boring, doesn't it? Especially with Frederick. He's my husband.
The immense popularity of the series has also led to an increase in people seeking more diverse sex lives, but not always with their partner.
Illicit Encounters is a dating site not too dissimilar to most online dating sites, but with one major difference. Most of our customers are either married or attached. We've had so many members using the names or combinations of the words Christian and Grey to the point that there are no more dots or numbers they can put in to get it allowed and to be unique within the system.
The Christian Grey character is fantasy. That's the most important word to remember in it. He's a fantasy.
We asked our members whether they would want to dabble in some of the antics that were mentioned in the book, and 74% did, but a larger majority said, but not with their existing partner. So Christian Grey personifies the non-emotion man, the man that you can fantasize over.
We all use sexual fantasy in our lives. Freud said when two people make love, there are at least 4 people present, the 2 doing it and the 2 they're thinking about. And I say, is it only 4?
Sales of sex toys and erotica accessories have more than doubled since 50 Shades burst onto the scene in 2012.
Before the 50 Shades of Grey book was out, the biggest event that boosted sales of sex toys was when the rabbit vibrator was featured in a very famous episode of Sex and the City. Charlotte was taken to a shop called the Pleasure Chest in New York. Carrie bought her a rabbit, and you didn't see Charlotte for the rest of the episode because she became addicted to her rabbit. The rabbit became the single #1 must-have sex toy for women. We've developed a really good close working relationship with Erica, because what actually happened was that she came to Coco de Mer to get inspiration for what to do in a book.
There's quite a lot of technical stuff there. I mean, you know, somebody's done some research.
We were able to close the shop for Erica, show her around in detail, and I think she enjoyed that, and she just liked our boyish charm and winning smile. E.L. James had personal sign-off on every single item that is in the official Pleasure collection. She was ecstatic. The 50 Shades of Grey official Pleasure collection has been a phenomenal success worldwide. We distribute it to trade customers in the US, in Australia, in Russia, across Europe, even Africa and South America. And it's become the #1 name in sex toys and bondage gear worldwide. And far and away the best-selling product in that range is the Inner Goddess silver jiggle balls.
The 50 Shades effect was given a humorous twist for the hit comedy show 50 Shades of Beige.
50 Shades of Beige is the third Grumpy Old Women live show, a middle-aged female response to the book. I think it's just as valid to say I'm 54 and I'm entirely uninterested in sex as it is to say I am 54 and I'm still very, very, very interested in sex, and actually I'm covered in carpet burns because I'm still at it like a rabbit. As you get older, you become lazier and lazier. These days, I'm not thinking about tying myself up or anything like that. I think about sex like I think about making my own pastry. I think, you know I should, but I'm not sure if I can be bothered. Another subject we have tackled is about the real dilemma of female pattern balding is whether to shave it all off or comb it over. That's a decision that you have to make yourself, ladies.
There are over 500,000 bald women in the United States today, and at least 100,000 more will become bald this year. And the reason for this prevalency of baldness in the modern woman today is that they do not take care of their hair as their grandmothers did. Your grandmother brushed her hair at least 100 strokes a day. She massaged and caused circulation to come to the scalp. Just as this young lady is doing here, if necessary, if you would have healthier, more beautiful hair, you too should stand on your head at least 5 minutes a day.
February 2015 brought the release of the hotly anticipated 50 Shades movie adaptation. Charlie Hunnam and Dakota Johnson were initially cast in the lead roles of Christian Grey and Anastasia Steele.
Dakota Johnson, who is the daughter of Don Johnson, Roll Your Sleeves Up, and Melanie Griffith, who then went on to marry someone else who she's not married to anymore, Keep Up.
Just very excited and honored to be entrusted with bringing this incredible character to life. You know, he's, outside of the kind of the notoriety and the phenomenon of that book, just the adaptation of it. This guy as he exists in the film is such an incredible role. And then, of course, compounded by the fact that he is such a beloved character out in the world and has become, almost part of the zeitgeist that, it's a real honor and I'm just very, very excited about it.
Leading man Charlie Hunman departed from the role, citing scheduling difficulties, and was subsequently replaced by actor Jamie Dornan.
I congratulate the chap that walked away from the Christian Grey part due to timing issues.
Jamie Dornan is definitely dishy. I think he's well cast. It's pretty much what I had in mind when I was reading it.
There's so many things that I could say that, you know, I just want to please a decent percentage of the people who've read the book, because people hold the book so close to their hearts, they hold the characters so close to their hearts. So, you know, I'm not going to please everyone, but I hope I've done a good enough job, and I'm not totally hated at the end of it.
British pop star Rita Ora was cast in the role of Mia Grey, Christian's younger sister.
I can't spoil it, so you're all going to watch it. It's amazing, and I'm so happy to be a part of it, so it's going to be great.
As millions of women continue to be seduced by the phenomenon, its immense popularity shows no signs of abating. E.L. James' exploration of the dynamics of sexual power will undoubtedly be discussed for many years to come.
If E.L. James has left a legacy, it's this one thing: introducing BDSM to your granny's bookcase.
She's created a whole genre of her own. She's an industry in herself.
And as long as she doesn't do a prequel, my life will be complete.
There's a lot of sneering at 50 Shades, and I think you at least have to read a chapter before you sneer.
If she wants us to publish her next one, we definitely will.